Well, good morning. It's great to see you. Welcome into Center Point to worship today. We're glad that you're with us. My name's Tony. I'm the youth and outreach pastor here at the church, and we got some information and updates to pass along to you. But before I get any farther than that, I always want to remind you every week that we love connecting with you. While you're here or while you're watching online, we love to have you there as well. Use this card that you find in the back of the seat right in front of you. And if you're new, we'd love for you to put the contact side of the card, fill that out. Let us know who you are and how you heard about us, what brought you by. And everybody, every week, we encourage you to use the other side and let us know how we can pray for you, your family, your loved ones, on the response side of the card. Also, with that card, you'll see some giving envelopes there if you are interested or are planning to give financially to support the mission, seasonal initiatives, operating costs of this church. Analog instructions and digital instructions are there. You can use this envelope and this card. You can put them in the boxes by the doors on the way out. We'd love to hear from you. Now, online, folks, we're dropping a link for you to communicate and connect with us as well in the live chat. For information for this week, we want to let you know, many of you remember Jean Odd, been part of our community for a long time. On New Year's Eve, she passed away. She started her new year in the best possible way. She's in the presence of Jesus. So we're kind of jealous of her, I think, in that way. We are going to be celebrating her. We don't have details and information on that yet. We will definitely know, so we will pass that information along to you as soon as we know. We wanted to update you about that this morning. There are some life groups that are gathering this week. We want to let you know about those as well. The book club life group is meeting on Wednesday, 6:30 at night in the community room. Youth ministry people, we're downstairs in the youth room at 6, so don't go on in there, although they're really nice people. Book club, that is the first door on the right as you come in the west entrance. And then there's a board game and card game life group that's been meeting for many months now. They're back. They were on a holiday break. They're meeting Friday, January 21st at 6:30 p.m. in the church lobby for a big old bunco extravaganza. How many of you have ever played bunco before? How many of you have no idea what I'm talking about? That was me at the last gathering. And if I can walk in, never playing a game before, figure it out, have fun, and actually win a prize, you probably can too. If you can roll some dice, you can play bunco. It's a lot of fun. That's coming up on the 21st. Hope you guys can make it for that. Also, not long after that, on the 30th, which is the last Sunday of this month, is our chili cook-off, which is not before. It is after our annual business meeting. Paul cheers for me out of pity. But then we have the cook-off after up in the fellowship hall. So it's going to be a great day. Out in the lobby are some sign-ups. We need help with that. We'd love for you to enter some chili for the contest. We also need judges who have no concern about their intestinal integrity or care what happens to their tongue. So if you would be willing to judge, I know I pitched it really well. We need some judges who can be impartial and are willing to sample food, both to contribute and judge. Sign up out in the lobby. Last two things are this. I had somebody approach me already in the lobby. We referenced this last week. Our church is in the process of researching and discerning a way for our congregation to be involved in reaching out, supporting, and being in the corner of the victims of the Marshall Fire that happened right before New Year's. We do not have a fully formulated plan yet. Our leadership council is meeting actually this Thursday night. We hope to have something for you next Sunday, but want to let you know because many of you have already asked either through this week, calling the office, or even here on property. That update will be coming very, very soon. And for our youth ministry tonight, we're doing a photo hunt here in the building. I'm going to give you a list and a printout of pictures, and you have to find those locations all around the property. Come back tonight, 6 to 8 p.m. for 6th to 12th grade students. That's all I have for now, but it is the second Sunday of the month, and we will typically focus on one of our missionaries or organizations that we support at Centerpoint with our missionary dollars. Pastor Paul is going to let us know about that one for this month.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, our focus this particular month is on the Ministry of World Venture in Spain through Sam and Mithre Benassa. They are wonderful people. I have yet to meet Mithre, but I met Sam a number of years ago when our short-term missions group, was in Madrid helping the ministry there that Sam was a part of. You get a little bit into Sam's life and his background, if you grabbed one of these cards, it will help you understand him. He was a Muslim who converted to Christianity. He gave his testimony to us live, and Karen, I don't think we'll ever forget that special moment when we were there, and Jared as well, and Heidi and others who are here who are a part of that team. It helped us to want to support him as a missions team, and we have for a number of, well, at least a few years, and so we need to pray for them. Their work is a difficult work, reaching Muslims in Spain. Now, right now, they are located in the U.S., working on his citizenship, which is a part of his being a part of World Venture, and it also helps protect him when he's back in Spain. But their focus is on Muslims from Morocco who have immigrated to Spain looking for work. And there's a real different dynamic that we experienced when we were there in having Muslims who were Moroccans coming for work and trying to connect with a society and a community that is foreign to them. But it is a very vibrant work, and we had a small part in that a number of years ago and continued to do so through Sam and Mithray. So will you join me in a word of prayer for them? Father God, I thank you for the Manassas. I thank you that you have called them to your work. I thank you that you saved Sam and brought him out of a very dark world, a very dark culture. And Lord, I pray that you would continue to help them as they adjust to life here for the short term, and that you'd open doors and speed that process up for his citizenship. And Lord, that you would also provide some housing for them when they get back to Spain, back to Madrid. And Lord, I pray that their time here would be beneficial, but even more so, that you would take care of their needs, and that you would get them back to Spain soon so that they can continue to connect with people there. We bless you, Lord, for the opportunity to bless them. Thank you again for these things. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Jared?
Stand back up with us. Sing a couple more songs here. There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. The space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, sitting next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding? Across that bears the burden. is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come with me in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. I know I will never be alone. Yes, I know. And I know I will never be alone. Be another in the fire, standing next to me. Be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding, how could you been to me? I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. And I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens and the space between our sin. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between. Be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding, how could you been to me? I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Gonna teach you a new song quick. It's called The Battle Is Yours. Fitting we just sang, we'll count the joy, come every battle there. Always helps to cape with the right fret too. It looks like I'm surrounded by the enemy, and it feels like hope is far beyond my reach. I know the battle, I know the battle, I know the battle. The battle is yours, always yours. I know the battle, I know the battle, I know the battle. The battle is yours, always when the seas agree that they should rage against me, and the storm pours its wrath upon my head, there's a name that's sure to save, it's never failing. Jesus, my salvation and my shield. I know the battle, I know every day. So whatever you're going through, just give that up right here, right now. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Have a seat, church.
Are you guys doing a closing? Well, good morning again. I heard a good morning back again. It's a little weird hearing it twice, right? I was like, he already said good morning. Why is he doing that? It's good to be with you this morning. I'm really looking forward to our study in the scriptures. It's going to be impactful for you, I believe, because it was really impactful for me in my study. I'm curious, before we even get into that, how many of you in the room are, how many of you are baseball fans? Raise your hand. Yeah, some. You see, it's called our national pastime. How many of you at least pull for the Rockies? You may not be actively watch them, but you are a fan of the Rockies. Okay, there's a few of you. Completely disconnected question, but it follows. How many of you have enjoyed the Marvel movies built around the comic book characters? Anybody like Doctor Strange? Yeah? I'm about to tell you a story from yesterday that intersects those two genres of Major League Baseball and the Marvel Cinematic Universe right in front of my face, and it was hilarious. Anybody like Todd Helton? Does anybody appreciate Todd Helton? Okay, so it was literally Todd Helton and Doctor Strange happening right in front of me yesterday. We went to the stock show with my family, which is cool to have that back. It was a lot of fun. I go there for the food. I'm just going to be honest. I don't even own a pair of cowboy boots. I don't borrow them. I don't pretend to be a cowboy or a country kind of dude at all. Karen's smirking at me. She's seen me at her place, and I don't fit in well. So I'm there, my jeans and tennis shoes and sunglasses. But we're walking up the sidewalk from the parking area, and I see this truck parked right here by the side, and I really actually look up and see what I'm looking at, and there's Todd Helton standing in front of me. I was like, hey, that's Todd Helton. Oh, I didn't say that, because I'm not going to say that to the person. Hey, you're Todd Helton. I'm not that dumb, at least not, I don't think, in social moments like that. I've met him before, real nice person. And so I say, hey, Todd, and I put my hand out and shake his hand and tell him thanks for all the time that he put into the organization in the city and blah, blah, blah. And I introduced my wife and kids to him, so he's giving high fives to everybody. And our youngest, Asher, is 4 years old. He'll be 5 in May. He is the wild card in our family, for sure. If you've been around my kids at all, you just know that he is his own person. And he's looking at Todd Helton, like real inquisitive like. And he finally says, that guy looks like Dr. Strange. And I think it was Todd Helton's daughter was there by the car. She starts chuckling, and he didn't quite get it, because sometimes little kids, the way they talk, you have to kind of translate and hear them a certain way. And she tells him what he had said, and he turns around, and he looks at Asher. Nice. And so we're just laughing. I'm telling the kids, I said, he's probably going into the Hall of Fame. It was fun on the way in to have fun. What does that have to do with this morning? Nothing. I just thought it was really, really funny, and it just happened last night. And I wanted to share with you how Todd Helton and Dr. Strange are pretty much the same person in the eyes of my 4-year-old son. I hope your weekend's been good. I hope that your year has started well. There's no guarantee to that, I'm fully aware. But today, the subject, the broad subject of our study is decision making. And it's not going into the traditional line of seasonal decisions and resolutions and goals and commitments, although there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a study about how to make better decisions. It's going to center in on one particular decision, actually. We find this in the book of Joshua, chapter 24. This is a interesting study. It's a real good study. But before we even get into the scriptures, I want to engage your minds to make decisions right now in this room. Now, these won't have serious consequence. It's more of picking from a fictitious idea. They're in a would you rather kind of a format. You're going to pick between one option or the other. You're going to vote. You're going to declare your decision. If you're in the room, you're going to show your hand for option one or option two. If you're watching live on the live stream, we're going to put these questions into the stream. We want you to vote in the chat and maybe even tell us your why in the comments. We'd love to hear that. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. We'll put them up on the screen for you to see as I ask them as well, so you can kind of remember. Here is the first question, the first slide, if you will, for these would you rather questions. Would you rather, number one, go without shampoo for the rest of your life, or go without toothpaste for the rest of your life? The fact that I see puzzled and confused faces means you're thinking about it. Great. These are fictitious, a bunch of different topics. No shampoo forever, or no toothpaste. Let's have time to vote. How many would go, I want no shampoo for the rest of my life? I don't know. You're asking me sure. Yes, it does include dry shampoo. That's a game changer for some. So real quick again, if you're like, no shampoo for me. Okay. How many were like, no toothpaste for me? Ew! Okay, if you can't tell, my pick was a shampoo. Worst case scenario, I look like Jeff Lipker, okay? Like I just shave it all off and we're good to go. The no toothpaste thing is a little much. Next one is this, question number 2. Would you rather never eat cake again or never eat ice cream? This one I think is a little tougher, at least for me, between the two. No cake or no ice cream. How many of you would say no cake? There's opinions in the room. How many of you say no ice cream? Did you hear the gasp? Oh my. How many of you, be honest, how many of you didn't vote? A couple. All right. Sometimes it's hard to make a decision. All right. Number 3 is this. Now, this is interesting. Would you rather win 5 Olympic silver medals or 1 gold one? This will get a little insight to people's psyche, because some people are like, if you're not first, you're last. I'm like, we'll see how the responses go. Again, online audience, I hope you're commenting in. I'll reply to yours later on today. All right, let's see it in the room. How many of you would rather win the 1 gold Olympic medal, be an Olympic champion? Okay, a lot of you, nice. How many of you on the silver? This was the toughest one for me between the two, because the idea of even making it to the medal podium 5 times, it's beyond my imagination for myself, although Olympic champion sounds really, really awesome. 2 more. This one is a little bit of a deeper thought, or maybe more tech and sci-fi, actually. Would you rather take a time machine to the past or to the future? I know, fictitious. Unless you watch the Marvel movies and quantum things. I don't know how they did it. Ask Ant-Man. He was saved by a rat, I think. Would you rather take a time machine to the past or to the future? Who'd rather go to the future? Okay, interesting. How about the past? Who'd rather go to the past? A lot of these are really evenly mixed. I can't tell which is more dangerous, to be honest with you. I think they're both going to present a problem, but it sounds like a lot of fun. Here's the last one. This is a lot more deep and harder to process, I thought. Would you rather be able to have the power to hear people's thoughts or control their actions? If you choose to have your hand down on the fear that it would incriminate yourself, I understand people are watching. Who would rather hear people's thoughts? I gotta be honest with you, this one freaks me out, hearing people's thoughts. Who would rather control people's actions? You a bunch of control freaks, oh my word. Now, the hearing people's thoughts terrifies me, because how do I, can I mute them? Can I only hear one person's thought at a time? Do I really want to hear what they're thinking about me or any given situation? And then it's also terrifying, like, how badly would I mess things up if I could control other people's actions? I feel like that one was definitely a catch-22. Decision making. It's a lot of fun. We love doing stuff like this to start conversations with our students, ask them random silly questions. If Jesus had a tattoo, what would it be? And some of you are like, what? You just get the brain going and your logic, and then boom, there goes the conversation, right? That was the idea here, because when it comes to decision making, it's estimated by many. I couldn't find the original source on this, so I'm not going to pretend to know it. But I've seen referenced over and over and over and over that in an average day, the average adult will make roughly 35,000 decisions in a day. And you maybe think, oh, that's ridiculous. Until you think about how many decisions you made today in picking your clothes for church. Now, some of you are thinking, I didn't really decide anything. I just grabbed. Well, you kind of made a decision there. Does the shirt go with the pants, the color, the weather is going to influence your choices? There's all sorts of different things that just go into the wardrobe. What about breakfast? You guys breakfast people? Who's a breakfast person? A few of you? I'm not. So breakfast for me, it's a rarity, and if I eat breakfast, I'm way hungry for lunch earlier. So again, decisions, the route that you take on your way to work. Am I going to go this way today or that? Am I going to pass that ridiculously slow driver? Or is that, seriously, I'm the only one? Okay, so there are like a lot of decisions in driving, interacting at work. Do I really want to talk to that person today, or can I get away with an email? All sorts of things. It's not too hard to see how in a day there's definitely thousands of decisions, small, big, all the way in between. In the study that I saw there was that, and then a friend of mine posted something on Facebook this week that hit me right between the eyes because it was on this topic, and it was kind of speaking to the idea of your vantage point as you are about to make any given decision at any given time. He contrasted, let me see here, 3 of them. Investing in knowledge for $1,000. That might sound like too much. But buying the latest iPhone for $1,000, might be no problem. Healthy meal prep, an extra $100 out of the pocket. That might be a lot, whereas going out to eat and dropping $100 might not be any problem at all. Binge watching a show on Netflix, I can do just one more episode. Read one more chapter? I don't know if I have time for that. You see how quickly it applies to most of the decisions that we make. Dr. Joel Humads from Roberts Wesleyan College wrote an article about this a handful of years ago. It was published on their university's webpage. And he was describing how there are different decision strategies, styles, and inclinations that we all have that will directly influence the decisions that we make. And I'd like you to listen to these and be honest with yourself how many of these apply to you, because more than one can for sure. And you may be listening to some of these, and people in your life come to mind. Don't elbow them if you're sitting next to them, okay? But you think more for yourself. You may have faces and people that come into your life as you listen. Here's the first one, impulsiveness. Leveraging the first option you're given and being done with it, okay? Compliance. Going with the most pleasing and popular option as it pertains to the ones who will be impacted. Delegating, pushing decisions off to capable and trusted individuals. Avoidance and deflection, ignoring as many decisions as possible in an effort to avoid responsibility for their impact and to prevent them from overwhelming you. Balancing, weighing the factors involved and using them to render the best decision in the moment. And then prioritizing and reflecting, putting the most energy and thought and effort into the decisions and that will have the greatest impact, maximizing the time in which you have to make these decisions. I don't know that any one of these is better, that's not a word, that's not a phrase. I don't know that one of these is best in a hierarchy or a ranking. They all have elements, but did a few of those kind of relate to you? I know it did for me, and I think they can all apply in some way, shape, or form, depending on circumstance. We make decisions every single day of our life, and again, this is not about New Year's resolutions or goals. It's about one particular decision rooted in Joshua 24. In Joshua 24, we're hearing from Joshua. In fact, it's the last chapter of the book of Joshua, and literally the last chapter of his life. He's very old at this point. He's 110. And at the end of the chapter, he dies. I know, spoiled the story, but that's what's happening here. And he's gathering the entire nation together to give them one last message, one last thing that's on his heart, one last thing from God himself before he finishes this chapter. The page is turned, a new season begins, and it is all finished. He gathers them in a place called Shechem. Shechem is an interesting place. It's Shechem. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I'm not Jewish, but Shechem is where significance lied in their culture. Shechem is where Abraham, their ancestral father, who God made the promise, I'm going to make a nation through you. Your descendants will be so many, it's more than the stars in the sky, more than the sands on the shore. It's going to be massive. You're going to have this area, a very specific place to live in the region of Canaan. I promise that people that bless you, I'll bless them, and the ones that curse you, I'll curse them. The whole world is going to be impacted and blessed by the fact that your descendants are on the earth. And God kept all those promises. This is where Abraham, when he first came into the region of Canaan, that was his first location to stop, build an altar, commemorate, celebrate, worship God in that special place. And that's where Joshua gathers them. So he's likely on a hillside, a place that's elevated where a lot of people can gather. He can be seen and he can be well heard. And he, standing in front of them at 110, has a message for them. This was the message in Joshua 24. So we're going to read that together and gain some valuable insights from the scriptures this morning. Joshua chapter 24, verse 1. I think we do have on the screen as well. Joshua summoned all the tribes of Israel to Shechem, including their elders, leaders, judges, and officers. They came and presented themselves to God. And Joshua said to the people, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River, and they worshipped other gods. But I took your ancestor Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led him into the land of Canaan, and I gave him many descendants through his son Isaac. To Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau, and to Esau I gave the mountains of Seir, while Jacob and his children went down into Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron, and I brought terrible plagues on Egypt, and afterward I brought you out as a free people. But when your ancestors arrived at the Red Sea, the Egyptians chased after you with chariots and charioteers. And when your ancestors cried out to the Lord, I put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and I brought the sea crashing down on the Egyptians, drowning them. With your very own eyes, you saw what I did. And then you lived in the wilderness for many years." He ain't kidding, it was a long time. "Finally, I brought you out of the land of the Amorites on the east side of the Jordan. They fought against you, but I destroyed them before you. I gave you victory over them, and you took possession of their land. Then Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, he started a war with Israel. He summoned Balaam, son of Beor, to curse you. But I would not listen to him. Instead, I made Balaam bless you, and so I rescued you from Balak. When you crossed the Jordan River and came to Jericho, the men of Jericho fought against you, as did the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites." Nailed it. I practiced that this weekend. "But I gave you victory over them, and I sent terror ahead of you to drive out the two kings of the Amorites. It was not your swords or bows that brought you victory. I gave you land you had not worked on. I gave you towns you did not build, the towns where you're now living. I gave you vineyards and olive groves for food, though you did not plant them." Now, historians estimate that the nation of Israel was millions strong. So to hear the governmental leader standing in front of them with a big old monologue, there's a whole variety of just internal responses and things that resonate and make sense, like any talking head at the front of a gathering of people. I personally, and I think I've shared this before, growing up, my biggest struggle academically as far as subjects was history. Didn't do well with it. I struggled keeping it all straight in my head, connecting the dots, and the only class I ever failed in my life was a college history class. So it's not my natural inclination. Pastor Paul and I are opposites in that. He's a big history fan. However, you can learn a lot from it. You shouldn't just discard it, but I just struggle with it. I imagine that if I were in this audience and I see my famous leader up there, the one who was like an undercover spy, this military genius and warrior who has just been through so much with us and led us through so much, and he's saying, this is what God has for you, and I see him standing up there and like, man, this might be it, this is the last one, and he's giving me a history lesson. Joshua, no offense, but we all know this. I mean, some of us have lived some of this. Huh? That's where I would be. I don't know about you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there's nothing that Joshua has said to this point that really felt new or unexpected or like a revelation of wisdom. Wow, that was really, really amazing. Now, I agree that I am likely a little bit jaded. I imagine that there are certain phrases that stood out to certain people for certain ways. They had the 12 tribes, the subgroups of the family, and certain things meant differently to them than other tribes, even though they were all one nation. Maybe that one family really remembers that time being rescued from Balak, and there's descendants, and there's a legend and lore. Maybe there's certain things that just made sense to you personally. I feel that certain phrases there in that story may have stood out. Phrases like, long ago, your ancestors worshipped other gods. I took your ancestor Abraham and led him into the land of Canaan. I gave him many descendants through his son Isaac. I sent Moses and Aaron. I brought terrible plagues on Egypt. I brought you out as a free people. I brought the sea crashing down on the Egyptians, drowning them with your very own eyes. You saw what I did. I imagine many Israeli boys loved the stories of their powerful God drowning the Egyptians. I gave you victory over them, and you took possession of their land. I rescued you from Balak. It was not your swords or bows that brought you victory. You haven't worked on this, you haven't built this, and you didn't plant that. Again, up to this point, it was a bit of a monologue and historical, but then in verse 14, it becomes personal. It was no longer referencing of the past, it's talking about right now. Whatever had resonated before, it was about to get deeper. Verse 14. So, fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshipped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. Serve the Lord alone. But if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you will serve. Would you prefer the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or will it be the gods of the Amorites in the land that you now dwell? But Joshua gets personal for himself. After all of this, last line, as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. What a final statement to make, huh? Like all of the lore in a very condensed bullet point fashion. And then it gets personal. The charge from God is to serve him alone, to serve him. And Joshua says, here's what I'm doing. What about you? It's a great leadership trait. What's the point in charging and casting out a goal to attain and to not personally rise to meet that yourself, to make it a family commitment inside your own house, to make it public for other people to see you and then model after you? What Joshua was doing there in that very short sentence, as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord, was brilliant. Great leadership, very powerful, very practical, very convicting. I am not going to stand in front of you and try and go that route with you. Also, not to infer that my family is not serving the Lord, but you get my point. This isn't me, your solo leader, 110 years old. None of that. That's not the tone here. But as I soaked and I listened and I considered, there were 3 statements that were resonating in my mind and my heart. And we'll finish with those today. But before we say those 3, I want to reread those short little fragments that were in the story with the personalization that God may have been giving them right there as they listened to their leader. Long ago, your ancestors worshipped other gods. I remember your past. I took your ancestor Abraham and led him into the land of Canaan. I chose you even before you chose me. I gave him many descendants through his son Isaac. I keep my promises. I sent Moses and Aaron. I sent advocates to speak for you when you couldn't speak for yourself. I brought terrible plagues on Egypt. I brought justice to your oppressors. I brought you out as a free people. I gave you dignity and freedom when you had none. I brought the sea crashing down on the Egyptians, drowning them with your very own eyes. You saw what I did. I ended your nightmare in the light where you could see. I gave you victory over them, and you took possession of their land. I gave you success and prosperity. I rescued you from Balak. I'd rescued you from those who meant you harm. It was not your swords or bows that brought you victory. I know that you're not able to do it all on your own. You hadn't worked on this. You did not build this, and you did not plant that. I don't love you because of what you've accomplished. I just love you. I really do believe that God's intent in that historical monologue that Joshua was bringing was not to render them burdened with guilt. I don't think God intended Joshua's historical monologue to be an educational time of like, oh yeah, that did happen, although helpful as it may be. I think God intended for it to be personalized, to be reflecting God's individual heart to the people that he had promised to and loved deeply. It was to be the reflection of his heart in their story. That's what I believe that God was trying to do there. And then Joshua brings it all together. It says, for me and my family, we will serve the Lord, because it became personal. That 2-word phrase, choose today, is what was resonating in my mind and heart for several days. And out of that fell 3 simple ideas. Choose today. First thing was choose now. There's a timeliness to that. Especially for Joshua, he's only got so much time left. It literally says at the end of the chapter, after this, Joshua died. It does not sound like much. Now, I'll tell you, ask Pastor Paul this as well. When you preach and communicate God's message to a group of people, you feel a little bit more dead inside than when you started. There's an expelling of energy and effort, and you are much more spent after moments like that. I'm not saying Joshua preached himself to death, but his time was then. He was not waiting around for later. He was challenging them and drawing them to a decision right now. Too often, when the decisions that we shouldn't, we wait. I'm not here to say that you all should make all the decisions right now. You and I both know better than that. There's supreme wisdom in weighing options, taking time to pray and seek wise counsel. Don't ever stop doing that, okay? And if you don't typically do that, you should start that this year. It's not all about making immediate decisions, but I do want to stand in front of you as one of your spiritual shepherds to say there should not be a delay at this point to decide, should I serve and follow God? Choose now. This is not a decision that you're going to regret, but it becomes harder and harder and harder the longer you wait. Choose now. Statement number 2, choose everything. Everything. No exceptions, no excuses. Did you catch how often God was referencing the gods of this culture, the gods of that culture, when you were here, when you were there? Like if you really want, if you don't want to serve God, you're going to go, I almost see sarcasm in there a little bit. And it's like, how quickly have we compartmentalized and fragmented the spaces in our lives to the God spaces and to the my spaces? We do that a lot, don't we? Do we do that with work? We do that with relationships. We do that with the church friends. We do that with the non-church friends. We do that with our finances. We do it with certain relationships, like maybe our marriage or our kids, but then maybe extended family or neighbor. We do it all the time. And Joshua, standing here in front of his people, was not saying, serve God over here. Choose today part of your life. He was standing in front of his people that he loved and poured his life out for in service to God. He's saying, choose everything. Choose everything that is in your life and follow God with it. Serve God with it. Release to God's plan rather than your own. And yeah, that includes our grandkids, our 401k, our student debt, our friend, like all of it. Not to say I don't want those things anymore. We are saying I don't anymore want those things more than I do God. Because it's not God saying, I'm going to take them all and you'll never get them back. I think God's intent was always, I'm going to take these and make them exactly what I intended them to be. But you got to let go first. Don't delay. Choose now. Choose everything. And the final statement is this, choose again. Choose again. I don't think that Joshua at 110, when he said, choose today whom you're going to serve, was implying to much or maybe even any of the audience that they are for the first time today going to choose to follow God. Now, run the math. It's very likely that on the individual level, there are people in the room, or not in the room, but on the hillside that hadn't made that decision yet. But what was much more likely is that there are people that just needed to hear that again. If you chose to follow God before and you failed, choose again. He'll take you. God doesn't keep score. Do you remember how in the love chapter of 1 Corinthians 13, there's a description of what love is, and God is described as being love itself. Love does not keep record of wrongs. Love doesn't keep score. There's no tally sheet. There's no scales. There's no metric of ahead or behind. And if in your past, whether it be recent or distant, you have chosen to follow God and you feel like or you know that you have failed in that endeavor, okay. Choose today. Choose again. That choice can be made again. Do you know the story of the Israelites? They had to choose and choose and choose and choose again. And there's their leader standing in front of them, reminding them of the importance to choose God again, to follow him. Now, if you've chosen to follow after God and you feel like that you have thrived, or maybe you're currently in a space where your relationship with God is solid, I still encourage you to choose again. I mean, why do people renew their wedding vows? Is it one last ditch ever before it breaks? I'm sure that can be the case, but it's more likely than not. It's like, no, this is working. This is good. I am deeply invested in this. I'm committed to this. This relationship that I have with my spouse, I want to choose that again. I want to make that commitment again. I'm in. I'm still in. If I could marry her again, I'd marry again. Like that's kind of the sentiment that goes there. And I believe that God just may have one of you in this room watching online, either live or in the replay, and he's moving your heart and saying, I'm still desperately in love with you. Stay with me. And maybe just the response today is, you know what, God, you have been amazing to me. You have been present with me in the really hard times and for whatever reason, blessing me in amazing times too. I'm choosing to stick with you. I'm choosing to continue to follow. Maybe some of you in this room, God is asking you to choose again so you can set an example for a generation coming behind you. We need that. I need the generation in front of me to help set the example because my kids will only get so much out of me. You know how that is with your parents, right? But to have people like you in this fellowship, in this community and congregation, we literally, in my family, have pointed some of you out by name in conversation to our kids. I got 4 kids ranging from 13 to 4, and they know some of your stories and your names because we have referenced your faith in Jesus. We have referenced your faithfulness in following Jesus. And I, as a 30-something, married father of 4, 36, I thank you for following Jesus, and I encourage you to choose it again. If you have never chosen Jesus, first of all, he already chose you. He loves you right now. And he loved you before you even knew anything about him. The choose now, choose everything, choose again, these 3 that are here on the screen in front of you, I fully believe that was God in his choosing into the story of humanity. The day that it all broke, when sin entered the world, Adam and Eve wrecked it, but let's just be real, we would have wrecked it too. He chose right then to go to talk to them in the garden, and he told them that my son is coming to crush that serpent's head. And he got involved in their life right now. When he sent Jesus to this earth to live a sinless, perfect life, he gave everything. He chose to give everything for you and for me. He paid that penalty that our sin deserved for the damage of our relationship with the perfect, holy God. He gave everything for you and for me. And he has said over and over again, choose me, believe, and you have everlasting life. 2 Corinthians 6:2, I love how it says this. The right time is now. Today is the day of salvation. And if you're in this room or watching digitally, and you've never chosen to believe in Jesus, you've never chosen faith in God, you've never chosen to relinquish your efforts to attain a relationship with him and an eternity in his presence, you've never chosen to believe in Jesus alone, I encourage you, choose now. Because Jesus chose everything for you, and he would choose you again if he could. Make the choice. Again, there's Joshua standing there saying, choose you this day whom you will serve. He says, choose today. Real old guy on his way out. Frankly, I think he did better than most, because a lot of people, when they're on their last days, they coast. They take it easy, find one last little bit of reprieve or comfort, and they're done. And he did amazing work. But there was Joshua standing in front of his nation saying, I've got something for you. God's put something on my heart. God, this is what God literally gave to me to give to you. And then he personalized it at the end by saying, choose today. So my challenge and hope for you is that you do just that. And then you do it again this year when it's hard, right? You're going to have another choose today moment. You're going to have to choose again. You're going to have another now of choosing, or maybe another reckoning where you're choosing everything in your pursuit, in your relationship with God to be released. Throughout the year, that's going to happen. You may have started well and have already been hit by a train. That's okay. Choose again. Choose everything. Choose now, this morning. You may get swiped in a month. You may go through 2022 and feel like it is a year of plenty and blessing. Fine. Choose now. Choose everything. And choose again. Will you pray with me? God, I thank you for you being the God of seasons. You tell us very clearly that there's a time and a season for everything. And here we are in a time where we're starting things new. So in that, God, we ask you to clearly, brightly, definitively shine a light into the space of our hearts. For your voice to pierce through the noise of all of the other circumstances that are currently happening in our lives and the ones that are even just about to crest over the horizon, that your voice will be dominant. And it will be a voice that moves us to action. It will be a voice that reminds us of your love and your belief in us, and we have the strength to choose today. God, I pray that our relationships with you will be noticed, that we'll be that light on a hill, that will be known like your son asked for, to be known by our love for each other, and that our influence in this community will grow, not because of our strategies or our plans or our efforts or our finances, but because of our pursuit of you, to be those generations of people passionately pursuing Christ one home at a time. We love you, God. Thank you for choosing us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Stand up and sing one more song with us today.